Start again. All right. So alignment, ball alignment. You can come more over here. You can come more over here. No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, yeah. Cool. So alignment was the first thing. So you have to be able to see a straight line before you can aim your putter to wherever your intended target is. Because obviously, if you can't aim your putter, it's not going to go where you want it to go. So we have these all three balls all in a pretty much straight line. We kind of agreed they were semi-straight eventually. And if depending on your personal eye line, it's going to be different for everyone. So 16% of people are generally eyes straight over the ball. If you were to drop a ball, the other 16% kind of hanging over their eye line over here somewhere. And then there's 64% of us that hang out anywhere from their eye line being here all the way to here. And when I'm saying eye line, I'm saying from where the eyes are looking straight down towards the ground. Eye line. All right. So yeah, and for everyone, it's going to be different. My eyes, for some or another reason, just the way they are, see the line a lot straighter when I'm a little bit further away. So my eye line's way in here somewhere. So obviously I have to have a putter that matches that position. So I can stand comfortably here and see what I can see and then hold the putter. So obviously this is your putter, so it's what, 32 odd inches long. It's way too short. I'd have to be like all like that. So for me, I have to have a putter that's about 35, maybe 35 and a half. And then depending on your eye line as to what you see. And then once you can see straight, wherever that might be for you, then you'll have the ability to aim the putter relatively straight to your intended line. Because obviously if you aim here and you think you're going there, you're going to do some sort of a weird manipulation that you don't really want. So number one step is the ability to aim the face before you even worry about reading it or whatever. If you can't aim the gun, it's who worries about calculating the wind on the range. So that's step number one. Once we've done that, step number two, as far as putting strokes go, is the only real focus of a putting stroke. Let me grab a ball back here. Once we can aim, without getting too technical, I have one preference, especially for learner golfers, that will run into the same thing that we'll run into, and you would have seen it in those other videos, which is that little 1, 2, 3 thing with the wrists that matches into chipping as well. So that's with regardless of your grip, whether you are a left hand low or right hand low or anything. If you just take a normal grip, once you can aim the face at where you want to go and you found your correct distance from it, so you aim it there. From there, you're going to have a little wrist, just the slightest little bump of your hands forward. And then once you've made that little angle, you've got to try and maintain that angle throughout the movement so that there's no wiggle waggle going on. That will create the most consistent club face positioning without being too technical. So you get set up, you can actually see where you're going, and then it's a little 1, 2, 3. So once you've created that little angle, you're just rocking your shoulders per se. Little angle, and then maintain it. Everything just rocks together. As I'd say, the old rocking the baby per se or anything. I should have had a bit more practice that, lady. It's certainly not rocking your body. It's just pretty much if you were paralyzed from your belly button down and you just set the little angle with your wrists and then you just maintain that angle. Yeah, there's no need for any releasing of the club head or anything like that. You're not trying to hit it at a distance. You're not trying to hit it in the air. Any of that carry on. The ball's going to be straight in line with your left eye, the right distance from the ball, if that makes sense. It's not going to be in the middle of your stance or there. It's going to be there, as far as positional goes, and then how far away from you this way is dependent on where your eye sees straight. And then once we've got that sorted and that sorted, it's just, for me, I'm a left-hand low guy, so I just go there and then create my angle with my right wrist and my left wrist have the angle, and then I just try and maintain that angle throughout. So I know my wrists are doing very little throughout. Because as soon as you have a lot of face rotation, with putting, the ball's going to go wherever the face is pointed, pretty much. It's got such a low loft on it. It's not going to curve on the ground because of where your club face is pointed. You can't cut spin it or hook spin a putter, but you can certainly, wherever the face is pointed, it's going to go. So our first job is to get that, and then a little forward, trying to keep obviously the face in that same angle, and then just maintain that angle throughout. right? That's what we're going to do with putting, the simple basics of putting. The only other little things, obviously, are say width of stance. Yeah, some guys will have a preference for putting being about the same as, say, a 6-iron, which is pretty wide. You can be narrower as long as you feel somewhat balanced. I wouldn't want you to get like driver or maybe like chipping a little bit too narrow, because the only reason the narrow is bad is if it gets real windy, you're going to kind of get blown over. But wherever you kind of feel comfortable, there's no real set thing with putting, far as posture goes, far as width of stance goes. But you definitely have to aim the putter in the right place. That's number one, big time. And then number two is just at maintaining consistent angles. Generally, all good putters seem to have a little forward and then maintain that angle for as long as possible, which will funnel in straight into chipping very nicely, and then a little bit into pitching. But pitching, we start to release it a little bit. All right, so let's give that a go first. Obviously, the putting, we had the aim part, and then we had the little 1, 2, 3 part, which you explained with your putting thing there, holding it down here and just getting it to press into your forearm, and then keeping that angle, and then you go down a little bit, keeping that angle. Just a way of getting used to creating an angle with the wrists, just creating that little angle, and then just keeping that angle. So there's very little facey, rotationy excitamento going on. It's exactly the same thing here. We're looking for a chip shot. Now remember, a chip shot is a ball that comes out low and runs. A pitch is the one that comes out a little higher and magically stops a little bit better. So we're going to do the chipping run, the running one first, and we've got a little 9-iron for that. It could be an 8-iron, could be a 7-iron, doesn't matter. Now, obviously here, width of stance becomes a lot more important, not like a putter, because the bottom of the swing is now becomes an issue. With putting, you're not really hitting the ground. It doesn't really matter. Hopefully you're not hitting the ground anyways with a putter. Whereas here it becomes fairly vital. So we're going to have our feet pretty much as close as your club head is, so really close together as a feeling. Ball position is going to be inside your left heel, but obviously if my feet are this close together, inside my left heel is going to pretty much be my right heel, isn't it? So that's where it's going to be at, and then they're going to have that little situation here where we're going to aim the face, say where we want to land the ball, and then we're going to do that same thing with the wrist, where we go a little forward, a little 1, just like with the putting, and we keep that angle throughout the action, and that will get the ball coming out pretty low and running a substantial way of the journey. So we'll only land maybe 20% or 10% of its journey and run out 90%, 80%, depending on the greens. And obviously you can play that shot with a 9-iron, you could play it with a 3-wood or a hybrid. It would only fly 2 or 3% and then run 97%. Or you could even play that shot with the sandwich or fly a lot further and run a lot less. But the good club to start with is just a 90 because it's super easy. And just getting used to that philosophy of creating an angle, maintaining the angle. The only issues that golfers generally have is when they try and help the ball in the air. As soon as they try and lift it, then you're topping it. You don't know how far it's going to go. You can top it like that. You can hit the one where you hit the ground first. And if the ground's firm, it might bounce like that. Or if it's really soft and juicy, like in the winter, it actually will dig in and you can do a magical double hit. Or you can also do the other spectacular option, where they kind of top it or they just thin it, or you have no sense of distance. So the first thing is just getting used to that very little small wrist angle. Same with the left wrist or the right wrist. Whichever one you can feel it better in. And just getting used to that little angle and just keeping it. Great thing to do with that is just get that little angle and just get used to brushing the grass in the same place with it. The more time you spend down there, you are going to feel it a little bit in your lower back potentially, so you don't want to do it for too long. But you're just getting into somewhat of a posture, creating an angle, keeping the angle. And you also notice, as an added extra, it's worth noticing, that as I follow through, I am allowing my chest and my hips to turn towards the target. Because if I keep everything dead still, I'm going to get to this point and I'll be like, oh, I can't move, and then I'm going to collapse and break down. So that's with the chipping, feet together, create a little shaft lean, and then just turn through everything together. All right? So that's a chip. Now, if I want to go higher and get the ball to stop quicker, the first thing I need to do is change the club. So here I got 9, so that's only got 30 degrees. So we go sandy. So even your sandwich, being like a ladies one, is going to have about 55. So have about at least 15 to maybe even 20 degrees more loft than your 9. There's a lot of gap. Depending on the manufacturer, some of them, the distance gapping is pretty crazy these days, but it's going to have a lot more loft. And when you put it down on the ground, you'll visually see, whoa, I can see heaps more of the club face. So we're only going to use that when we want to carry the golf ball and get it to stop. Much more challenging to hit a pitch shot, especially if it's nice, kind of dead hard ground. But we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do if we want to go higher is obviously change the loft in the club. The next thing you want to do if you wanted to get to stop a little quicker again is instead of playing the ball sort of off that right heel, same with the stance of the shot, you're going to move it more literally on your left heel. So it's going to be like a whole 1 inch left. I mean, we're talking minute, but it's just enough that as you go from that to that, the handle's not going to be as far forward. The handle will be much more neutral. And just that, by changing that ball that much further forward, and the handle is going to be that much more neutral, you've changed the loft, you've changed the angle the club's coming in, you've changed the dynamics of impact dramatically, hopefully. And then from there, obviously, with that setup, we're looking to get used to still. We're not going to do too much of this. You're going to get used to, still going to have a little bit of hinge as you go back. But the big thing here is you have to make sure, with these shots especially, you have to make sure that the handle does beat the club head to the ball. So the handle gets there just that little bit before the club head gets there, as the club head is going to go past your hands with a shot as you get past impact. The handle is going to go past your hands. That obviously allows you to get some more loft on it, get some more spin on the golf ball, all the real cool fun stuff. But you do not want the club head to beat the handle at the ball, because then you're going to do all sorts of, you'll do the real scary stuff. If you get that handle to, who knows what's going to happen. You don't want it to be a scoop. You still want the handle to lead the club head, and that creates that. So that's where it starts to get a little bit more tricky, because a pitch shot is 30 times more challenging technically probably than a chip shot. But it's one of those ones that you want to have, because it's the same action that you're going to have when it comes to playing bunker play and the high soft shot. So that's, you're going to see the ball's going to fly a lot further and stop in about half the space of time that the chip shot was. It'll pop up and it'll have that little bit of kind of spin on it. Much more skillful shot, takes a lot more time to learn. But obviously, if we have those situations where you're playing golf and say that bucket right there is the bunker, and you gotta fly it over to that to know you can stop it. That's when you get to take the highest lofted club, create some angle, and then allow that feeling of when is the handle going to lead, and then let the club go past. Handle leads, club goes past. Once you get a sensation for that, and you get used to the sole of the club catching the turf in the right place, it might even look scoopy, but it's fine because the handle is ahead, and then the head releases. It's going to give you the nice little pitchy shot. And then one day, if you ever do get past that point, you can start to, I don't know if I can do it with this grind of wedge. There's not much heel relief. But if you were to open the face, you could try and go, and then it should go higher again, but I'm not sure if I can get underneath. We'll see. It popped up a little bit quicker, and it'll stop even again faster. So you do, one day, you start, if you ever want to go higher again, you don't scoop it, you never do that. You just add loft with the club head angle. But we'll have a go at that. We'll do the chipping one first, and that's obviously the one you want to master. Where you get used to create an angle, maintain an angle, exactly the same as the putting philosophy. And then once you can do that, then we'll go for the extra loft, ball a fraction further forward, like a ball, and then get used to the handle leading and then the club head passing, which is pretty much a miniature version of the full swing anyways, where you're going to be creating angles and releasing the club head. Any questions? All right, full swing. So obviously we've gone with the putt, which is there. Then we've got the chip, which is pretty similar in it. There's not much difference there. The only thing really is the club. Both are designed to hit the ball low and ridiculously straight. In the pitch, we started to get a little bit of wrist action happening because we're obviously looking for a little bit more speed, a little bit more spin, a little bit more lift. So then a full swing or a half full swing, obviously some dynamics change. So that's short. As we get longer, not really the lead foot doesn't change position a lot. It's the trail foot that gets further and further back. Okay. So if I was playing like a sandwich shot, it'd be like that. 7-iron's only going to be maybe half an inch more that, but this guy's going to go a lot that way. This gives me more stability, gives me more ability to move, more dynamics, more speed. Because obviously, if my feet are like this, I can only swing so fast. If my feet are like that, I feel like I can swing a lot quicker. And then with driver, I want to have the most amount of balance, so I have the widest amount of stance. Plus, it generally moves where my swing center is, which is as the club gets longer, I want to have a wider stance so I can hit a different amount down or with driver up on the ball without getting that's getting way too complicated very quickly. But yeah, so about give or take shoulder width apart, say 7-iron, middle of the bag, and then from there, obviously, you can go wider for longer clubs, narrower. If you think 6 or 7-iron's kind of there, everything's shorter there. Like I said, don't worry too much about this guy moving a lot, trail foot that moves a lot. Now, a full swing is just an extended version of what we were doing with the pitching, right? Which was there, handle leads the club head into the golf ball. Now, at your current level, we're not going to worry a lot about path, swing direction, curving the golf ball, and all that sort of stuff. The first job is just purely strike, which gives us flight. And then once it's in the air, then we can start to really discuss why it's curving, where it's curving, rah. So with that little wider stance, posture obviously becomes slightly more of an issue here. You don't want to be too much, is what I say, sitting on the toilet where you just kind of got no dynamic balance, but then you don't want to have your ass sticking out too much and then feel like you're stiff. You want to be somewhat athletic. So the same as if you were about to tackle someone potentially without having too much weight in your toes. Or if you're returning serve in tennis, you'd be kind of dynamic where you can move. Relaxed but athletic if such a thing occurs. Sounds pretty complicated. So anyways, from there, what we're trying to do is we go back, we create some more wrist hinge. So just with the pitch, obviously you got a little bit going. With a full swing, we're going to create even more hinge. Not like that. It's going to be like that, so the wrist's still kind of flat, but we'll push you around to feel that. So some more hinge. Still same feeling with the handle leading the club head, and then the club head's going to go past your hands again. So it's exactly the same dynamics as a pitch shot. Literally exactly the same dynamics as a pitch shot. It's just an extension of that exact process. So instead of going from here to here, I'm going to go a little bit further, depending on the length of shot I'm trying to hit. So I go a little further back, a little further through. And the golf ball's obviously just going to go further and further and further, depending on my swing length, thus creating more speed. But it's exactly the same action with the hands and the wrists getting used to that. That's why mastering a pitch shot is so hugely beneficial for a full shot. But the whole thing here, especially when you're starting off, is trying to get used to this concept of this end of the club leading that end of the club, certainly through the transition or through the change of the back to the down, trying to get used to that happening before that goes past that. As soon as you can get used to that feeling of this leading this, and then it eventually is going to go past, you don't make it go past, it will eventually want to. The sooner you can get used to that, the better off you're going to be. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of body rotation going on at the same time, but I don't think you can worry too much about that. I think just thinking of the hands and arms at the moment are probably more than enough to muster. So we'll have a go at that, right? Just getting used to getting here, and getting that handle to lead the club head, and then we'll catch the grass. And then if we can think about one thing far as body movement goes, I think finishing facing the target is a very applicable goal. It's post impact, it's post the ball's gone, but it's a great habit to allow to know your body's moving through. So top of the club leads the bottom of the club, finish facing the target. I think that's as complex as we could probably get for the start, because obviously there's 28 million things to think about. But I think it's a good start where you get the handle to lead the body all the way through. And then once you got that, you're going to have some semblance of strike, some semblance of movement pattern, and at least then you'll start to have the dynamics going. Because as soon as you feel like that handle is going to lead the club head, you'll naturally start to do some weight shift. You'll naturally start to create some angles. Because if you go here and you get the club head to lead the handle, you're automatically going to start doing. Very hard to imagine someone going forward and doing that. I mean, I've seen people do it, but it's pretty tough. Whereas you tell someone to get the handle to lead, they automatically start to do some other really good stuff. All right, so we'll have a blast at that. And it's the same regardless of club, really, to be honest. Even if it's driver compared to a 7-iron, the only difference with the driver, obviously, is the stance is much wider and the ball appears to be much further forward. So that 7-iron there, driver's going to be a lot further forward of my swing center. So when that club head starts to get past my hand, it's going to be a little bit of a different time. Plus, it's going to be starting to work upwards on the arc naturally without actually trying to think about hitting up on it. But I think that's probably starting to get way too complicated. Yeah? Yeah, that is starting to get way too complicated, I'd say. So we'll just have some fuller shots, and all we're going to worry about is getting used to being from here. You can be conscious what leads what, but you can certainly get to here and feel like that is going to lead that as it comes down. You can even stand there and watch it. You can get there and stop and get used to seeing this going, leading, winning the race, even if it's going to feel like, what the hell am I doing here? It's going to feel like that. That's fine. It's exaggerated, but that's fine. And then from there, obviously, you can let the head then go past as you go through. As opposed to from here, we don't want to see that going and this almost staying in the same place. We don't want that at all. Yeah, that's heaps better. Yeah, it's better. This is going to come past. It's the heaviest part. It's, the balance point's way down here. This wants to get there first, but the more we can delay it, the more chance we have of getting the bottom of the swing being a slight descending blow, which we want to have slight down on the ball to get it to go up. Not heaps. We want to be axe murdering it, but we definitely want to have this end of the club leading that end of the club, whether it's golf or tennis or cricket, hockey, or anything.